Hello, everyone. Welcome to the broadcast. This is Angela with God's House of Prayer, and I wanted to share with you something that God had been dealing with me with about. It started with Abraham, and He gave me Genesis 17 and 5, and then 17, 15 through 19. Then Genesis chapter 22, 1 through 13. And it talks about, basically, to sum it up, how God changed Abraham and Sarah's name and gave them the child He promised them, then turned around and told Abraham to sacrifice this child. Of course, we know that God ended up providing a sacrifice, so he didn't have to do it. Then, if you go to Galatians 3 and 6, it lets you know that Abraham believed God and it was accounted to him for righteousness. So regardless, even through that whole situation, he believed him and God accounted it to him for righteousness. Then he took me to Job 1 and 9 through 10, then 13 through 22 of the same chapter. And this is where Job was being tested of God by Satan and lost everything. His wife even told him to curse God and die. After all he went through, and when the test was over, we came to Job 42, 10 through 13, where the Lord turned the captivity of Job. Then after Job prayed for his friends, the Lord gave him two times as much as he had before. Then we went to Deuteronomy 6 and 15, and it talks about God being a jealous God. Then to Matthews 10, 37, and it said that if you love your father, mother, son, or daughter more than him, you aren't worthy of him. So the lesson I received in all that was that God can give you something you desired, maybe even for a long time. And after he gives it to you, he tests you to see if you are willing to sacrifice the very thing he blessed you with. Because God is a jealous God, and no matter what the relationship you have, to be willing to sacrifice everything for him. Job, he lost everything during his test. And his test was a little different than Abraham's, but yet he was tested. And it's not that he asked God for anything, it's just that he, because of what he was known to be, an upright man, God tested him just to see, how faithful he would be, and he surpassed that test. And God said, and on top of all that, he still wouldn't curse God, and he held on to the faith. Job 13 and 15 said, though he slay me, yet will I trust him. So he has so much trust that regardless as to what he went through, he still wouldn't betray him. He still trusted God. Today, people tend to go through a lot. And instead of them putting their faith and trust in God, they put their faith and trust in man. They put their faith and trust in all these other things, and they just don't trust God. They don't wait it out. They don't see, okay, Lord, these things are happening. What's going on? Regardless as to what's going on, let me do what I can do. Let me start. I'm a pray. I'm a fast. I'm a seek you even more, because I know that you're the only one that's going to bring me out of this thing. You're the only one that's going to carry me through this thing. you just have to be willing to trust God regardless. And so here we go to, Abraham was tested to sacrifice the very thing that God promised him with. And he went as far as to commit the very act, but God provided a ram in the bush. He literally was going to sacrifice Isaac. This was something he prayed about. He said, that's something that he didn't have, and so he saw God about it. And Sarah, she convinced him to sleep with her handmaiden. He ended up, messing up the first test. Because, see, the first test was, when I tell you something, are you going to believe me? Are you going to trust me? You know what I'm saying? Over everybody. Sometimes even your significant other won't understand what you're going through. Even your significant other won't trust, that process, or trust what God had told you. But yet still you have to hold on to that faith. You have to, no, God didn't, see, God didn't tell me to sleep with your handmaid. God said that you was going to bear my son. So I'm going to trust God that he is going to do exactly what he said he would do. So, but he ended up still trusting God after all. And God gave him this son. And he turned around and required of him the very thing that God blessed him with. I think it was a thing of, let me see if you trust me now. How much do you trust me now? I know you trusted me then, and you allow others to come in and persuade you. And see, this time I don't believe he told Sarah, because he didn't want Sarah to mess up whatever it is that God was about to do. He's like, no, I'm gonna trust you, God. Hey, me and my son, we gonna go down here and we gonna prepare this sacrifice before the Lord. That's what we about to do. You know what I'm saying? And he trusted God through it all, even though God required of his son, and he was about to butcher his son, but God sat there and he sent the angel to stop him and told him about that ram in that bush. Another thing that stuck out was, after the test with the both of them came the blessing. Proverbs 10:22 says, the blessing of the Lord make it rich. It maketh rich, and added no sorrow with it. God's blessing tends to not only exceed, but it makes it rich, and it's rich in that blessing. And that blessing is just so rich and abundant that it adds no sorrow with it. It don't come with no sorrow. See, some things we trust in, or some things some people get into to try to make them rich, and because it's not of God, it don't become successful. And that person later on down the line gets sorrowful. Maybe it might make them rich, but because of that, because they went another way, they have sorrows with it. But he said, this don't add no sorrow to it. When you sit there and you seek me for the blessing, you ain't gonna get no sorrow with it. You know what I'm saying? So in the end, they didn't get no sorrow with it. Abraham, he became the father of all nations. He said kings and queens. Like literally, he's the father of all nations. And then Job got double for his trouble. And long life, he saw 4 generations. He got everything that the enemy took away from him plus some, and ended up with long life. To see 4 generations. That is so awesome. With all that being said, know that there's a blessing in the lesson. If you pass the test, you will receive the blessing. You just have to have faith. God, He will sustain you regardless as to what you may be going through or even about to go through. No, it's only a test. Just hold on to the faith. Just hold on to the faith. We need that old time faith, that faith that once was delivered unto the saints. We need that faith that there is no doubt. Nothing can persuade you otherwise. You just have that trust. You trust God so much. No matter what people say, it don't deter you. No matter what people do, you still believe God. Like Abraham, and because of his belief, it was accredited to him as righteousness. Just imagine. Just because I believe God, I believe Him with everything. With everything. When you start to trust God with your relationship, you start to trust God with your finances, you start to trust God with everything that's in your life, with your home, with your food, with your drinks, with everything that you have. God, He'll accredit it. He's able to accredit it as righteousness. Because you trust Him just that much. Because you have faith because of whatever He told you. You know that God said it. And can't nobody else tell you otherwise. You hold on to the faith. Okay, Lord, you said you won't bless me with this. Okay, so I'm going to believe you. You might have a husband or a wife and they say, you know what, how about we go this other way? Don't forget about at the beginning with Adam and Eve, because she sat there and was persuaded that forbidden fruit was good to eat, and she ate of it and persuaded her husband that it was good for food. You know what I'm saying? And that thing messed everything up. Don't allow other people to get in your ear and persuade you otherwise. If God say no, then it's no. If He says, I'm going to bless you, believe He's going to bless you. If He says He's going to give you something, believe God that He's going to give it to you. And you just have to know that He's going to provide. He is the provider of all of our needs according to His riches and glory. He will provide everything that you need. There's nothing that He's unable to provide for you. All you have to do is trust in Him. Build your relationship in Him. Sometimes some of these tests is to build your faith, to build that trust. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes in life we end up slipping away from that faith. We end up slipping away from the trust that we had in God. And you find yourself in a place where possibly you may not have any hope. You know what I'm saying? You're seeking other people for advice, but if they had it all figured out, then their life would be a little different. But people don't have it all figured out unless they have Him. You know what I'm saying? And unless they leading you to Him. If you constantly look up and every time you go to ask somebody for something or what they think about something, well, let's pray about it. Well, I don't know. Let's see God about that. Well, God, He's able to provide all the answers, everything that you need. Let's seek Him. If we just turn our faith towards God and allow Him to give the answer. Some people are asking, what do I do about this? There's this is out there. There's that out there. And, I'm afraid. Well, okay. Let's go to God. God, what do you say about this? What do you say about that? You know what I mean? Any type of decisions that you have to make, if you just trust God for it, even if it comes down to you having to lose your job, if you trust God, see, God, He'll sustain you in the midst of all that. Not only that, but He can provide you another job. You don't, that's the problem. A lot of times we put our trust in too many other things. Like I said, we put our trust in man. Sometimes we put our trust in materialistic things. Sometimes